what'll happen is everything will close, and it'll be amazing, and I'll panic, and it'll be great.
Welcome to the Dog-Eared Discourse, a nerdy little double date where we talk about the book we're reading and where we left off. Every month, we're pulling a new and exciting book from our shelf. We've broken them down so you can buddy read with us, or just hang out while we discuss, predict, and nerd out. If you want to read along, right now we're reading A Face Like Glass by Frances Hardinge. Chris, can you give us a quick recap of where we left off?
Sure. So let's go over the main people first. So we've got Neverfell, who's the main character. She was a kid who fell into a vat of Neverfell cream and got adopted by a cheese meister. And now she's on her grand adventure. Maxim Childerson, who is a master winemaker who makes magical wine. We have Zuel Childerson, Z-Girl Childerson. None of us know how to pronounce her name. She is Maxim's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandniece. They live a long time here. We have Madame Appeline, the face smith. She helps people in this world have faces because that doesn't happen naturally, except for Neverfell. We have the Grand Steward, who runs the whole shindig, and he is very kill people-esque. We have Grandable, is he's a master cheesesmith. He's the one that adopted Neverfell back in the beginning. And we have the Kleptomancer. And the Kleptomancer is a guy who just is causing a bunch of chaos by stealing a bunch of stuff. So where we left off was Neverfell was on her grand adventure. And she was doot-dooting about. And she was stolen by the Kleptomancer. There's a lot else that went on. And if you'd like to hear about that, you can listen to our first episode on this book. So, with that, Kelly will be giving us our 60-second recap.
I'm ready.
All right. Juan will be on timer.
3, 2, go.
Okay, so Neverfell was kidnapped by the Kleptomancer. She escapes. She escapes to the drudgery, which is basically where all of the poor people live, and refinds her friend Erstwhile. She goes to see Madame Appeline to fix her face, because the Grand Steward has put her on trial for having a face of disillusionment, and she gets her face fixed, takes a nap, goes back to the Grand
30
Steward.
seconds.
And while they're doing a jelly tasting, the Grand Steward freaks out and kills himself. Maxim takes control of the situation, and he ends up getting control of the whole caverns. Neverfell runs away,
15.
joins the drudges, causes a whole uprising, and learns a lot about the last 7 years of her life, which she has been looking for the whole time that she's been on this
5,
journey.
4,
And
3.
the Kleptomancer
Done.
rules the world now.
Okay, so that was great. Yeah, there was a lot going on in this last half of the book. We're going to be covering a bunch of that later on.
I was going to say, I was pretty confident that I was going to get through.
You did a good job.
Yeah, you did a good job.
That was not even a third of what happened in this part of the
I
book.
think you summed it up pretty good, though.
Well, you ran the clock 21 tenths of a second, so
Boo.
yeah,
Oh,
we'll discount it from your next turn.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do laps after the show.
So Kelly was giving the synopsis. Juan was on timer.
I, Chris, was doing the little recap thingy.
And I am Danny, and I was the one who started the show. Yeah. Chris, can you give us the themed drink for today and the recipe?
Sure. Okay, so the themed drink for today I called the Grand Stewart. So the Grand Stewart, he keeps only one eye open at a time because he doesn't want to sleep. Yeah, he's a little weird. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is I cut oranges and blood oranges into 1/8-inch slices. And then I soaked the oranges in dry curacao, and I soaked the blood oranges in absinthe, which I soaked them for at least 2 hours. Then I fired one small chunk of red wine barrel because he's fancy until it was slightly glowing on fire. I blew it out, placed a mason jar on top of it to seal the smoke in, and then I mixed together the rest of the drink real quick. So I put in 1/4 ounce of Demerara syrup, 1 3/4 ounces of Old Granddad, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, the aromatic bitters, and I stirred it all together with some ice. I add the slices of the blood orange and the orange into the glass, like between the glass and the ice. And then I took a 1/4 ounce of the Old Granddad, added it to the jar of smoke, shook it up, poured it over top. So that way there's smoke coming off of it, because, you know, the Grand Steward, he's just always thinking about all the other nobles, and Childersons is the winemakers. You know, there's a theme there. And then we drank it, and it's been very good.
It's actually really funny, too, because the 2 oranges were way different sizes. So you have the blood orange is a kind of little smaller, and the regular orange was bigger. So it's literally making that little, like,
Squinty-eyed
face.
It's like, I'm falling asleep.
And he used the different types, the blood orange and the orange, to represent the left side and the right side of the Grand Steward, because he treats people differently based off of whether his left side is awake or whether his right side is awake, and they can tell that by whether his left eye is open or his right eye is open.
He has different attendants based on whether or not which eye is open, and they swap out like immediately.
Also, and I'm going to just insert right here, this is a very, very spoiler-heavy podcast. So if you plan on reading this book and you don't want to know what the ending is, you got to just turn it off right now.
Pause now and join us later.
Are you gone? Great. So also, one of my favorite parts of this drink is that it gets topped with a smoky, like, topper. And so, like, it kind of is steaming right before you drink it. And the Grand Steward gets smoked in this book.
Spoiler.
The man went in for a haircut and ended up lobotomized. That's how he ends up with the 2 hemispheres going to bed at different times.
Oh my God.
The guy is running on so little steam that you can't even keep both halves of your brain awake.
And both halves of his brain are paranoid.
Yeah.
So
he's what, like 5,000 years old?
he's like 800 or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And he's been, or 500, and I think he's been bored for the last 4. So, I mean, yeah, dude needed to die.
All my friends are dead.
Dude, get a crossword puzzle or something. I used to pick up back in the day the like 99-cent little book, like the pulp crappy books on a check stand that had like crossword puzzles and word searches
And those little
Sudoku.
logic puzzles
Yep.
and stuff like that. I love
Exactly.
those things. Yeah.
He should have gone to Safeway.
My
Picked
favorites
himself
were
up
the
one or
ones
two.
with the little numbers on the side, and you like color in the boxes and it makes a picture. Yeah, those were great. Okay, so we're gonna cheers to us drinking, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers. Clink, 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 and stuff like that. Okay, and now let's talk about what our predictions were last time, because it's important to understand what we thought was going to happen and where it actually got to. So,
Should we just go around the table?
sure, let's go around the table. I'm going to start with Kelly.
So, my prediction. I thought that Madame Appeline was not the mother of Neverfell. She was just trying to help someone else escape, and that got thwarted somehow, and so Neverfell ended up getting stuck in Caverna, thus underground world. And I also thought that the father would be Maxim, who is the winemaker guy. I was wrong.
Yeah.
The end.
Yes. All right, so Danny.
Yeah, I need to pass my trophy, my winner's trophy from the last book that we read, to somebody else, because I predicted that Madame Appeline was Neverfell's mother and they would be reunited and live happily ever after.
Oh,
And
so
I was
optimistic.
extremely wrong.
All right, so Juan.
Well, my prediction was that Madame Applebottom Jeans found a love overground and came back underground and gave birth to a love child that ran wild and was lost in the tunnels. Close, but not quite.
I mean, yeah, that's not quite. So mine was that Madame Appeline is a villain, and she's trying to kill, or has tried to kill, Neverfell. Madame Appeline knows how to do the sorrow faces because she witnessed the mother's death, or the dad dying, and the true tragedy of the mother having her daughter taken away. She learned those faces while they were dying because it's a type of cold-hearted people that live in this forsaken city.
Take my trophy, Chris.
Hell yeah.
I was like, did you read this already?
Nope. I just, yeah.
You run a lot of games.
Yeah,
or
that's
you
what.
DM a lot of games.
So the goal of D&D is to build your hopes up and then crush them into dust and then build them up again. So that way it's like opening those boxes over and over again. There's always the hope that you're going to win. And generally you get loot. So yeah, you do win eventually. Unlike
in D&D.
In D&D.
That was kind of right. She kind of gave...
She did find love.
Aid birth.
She did run wild.
She found love, and it wasn't overground though.
I guess if you slice my prediction into a million little pieces, bits and pieces of it are
There's a fine dusting.
All right, so now we're going to kind of go through stuff and talk about the book. Yeah, that's what we're here to do, right?
What actually happened
What
in this
actually
part
happened.
of the book?
I was here for the snacks, but
Yeah, and the drinks. Here, snacks and drinks.
yeah.
The snacks is only the oranges that you brought that represent the eyeballs. So
And
I-
they are
Eyeball snacks.
and they are soaked in alcohol.
I have to say, I have not been the biggest fan of absinthe in the past, but I love this drink with the soaked oranges and the absinthe. I think if there's a little bit of absinthe that swirls at the end of the glass before you make the drink, or there's something like in it that's just a hint of it, I'm all about it. I love it.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot to do a little shout out to Greg from How to Drink on YouTube. He actually went through a history of old fashions, and
Because this drink is based off of an old fashioned.
yeah, this drink is kind of loosely, vaguely based off of throwing something at an old fashioned somewhere. So this is
The
the
LaCroix of old
oldest.
fashions.
My idea on here was this is the oldest version and the modern version combined, because the oldest version was back in like 1860 or something like that, and it didn't look anything like an old fashioned, but it had absinthe and curacao in it.
They just called it fashion back then.
This is the fashion.
It's called fashion. That's how you get the
hair
king
flick.
who wears no clothes. Sorry.
But-
This right here.
But he also went through the other one, and he also suggested Old Granddad bourbon, which is what I used in this. And, you know, Old Granddad, you got an old fashioned, he's hundreds of years old, just like these recipes. So I figured if he's old enough, he's just going to take the bits he likes out of each thing. And doesn't necessarily have to make any sense for this world. So
Except it makes a lot of sense because this turned out great.
Yeah, I really like it.
I was absinthe-mindedly enjoying this drink.
boo.
I'm leaving.
So let's talk about this half of the book, right? So she was kidnapped by the kleptomancer. We kind of are picked up there. She decided to like piss off to the drudgery. She escapes the kleptomancer, ends up in the drudgery or the works. But she does make it back to the Grand Steward, and her face has been morphed. Does anyone have any big takeaways out of that
Morphed
section?
by disillusionment.
Disillusionment, yeah. So do we want
Yeah.
to talk about the
And
drudgery?
everybody can tell that she's got this new sense about her. Like she is just has gone from this happy-go-lucky, has only known the cheeses for 7 years of her life, to I have seen the world and I am not impressed.
Yeah, so it was like one specific incident, right? It was that one where the person died. There was a person working on the water wheel.
It was a child.
It was like a child that was working on like a water wheel or something, and she blinked, and in 1 second the kid was there, and the next second gone, fallen over the edge. And the quote that I've got is, "And then quite suddenly everything changed before her eyes. The figures on the walls ceased to be ants and became people."
And the part that I think really affected her, reading that part, was seeing the replacement come in for that girl. She's
Because
gone.
what was happening was this girl was working. It wasn't like some random girl accidentally got swept away by tides or anything like that. Like this was a little child who was being forced to work, and then when she died, nobody cared. Like
No one seemed to care, because the drudges only have one face.
Yeah. The person that we know for sure didn't care was the foreman.
Right.
Did not care because he's got all the emotes and he did not care.
he's got quotas to fill.
Yep.
Right.
He brought in a replacement and everyone back to work.
So yeah, that moment was the turning point, I think, for Neverfell. And that's when I kind of feel like she became this like Katniss character from the Hunger Games, where she's like, this is fucked up. I can't handle this anymore. and then let's rage.
So
with a whole lot less crime.
I don't think so. That's the problem, is that it never felt like that for me. She never, like, I know that this is the turning point, but her character never changed.
Yeah, I don't know that it necessarily turned her bitter, but I think she woke up to what the world, not only could it be a wonderful place full of wonders, yeah, that you have all these questions about, you want to learn about, and magic, everything is magic, and then you also realize that it is a place full of pain and sorrow.
Neverfell was really fortunate because when she got out of the cheese place, she was almost immediately swept up by high society and kind of fostered in that kind of way. So I think that this is just her first time seeing what the world's really like for most people. It's not all rainbows and wine. It's sometimes you just fall into a pit and people move on.
It reminds me a lot of the story of Metropolis, one of the old sci-fi movies. Like, he goes from like the high society up with the sex gardens and stuff like that to he goes down and starts working on the pits. And then he realizes what is actually driving the rest of everything. The problem is that I had with Neverfell was I don't feel like it changed her. She was the exact same behavior and personality and everything. Her face had changed a little bit, but her actions, the way she talked, none of that did. It's consistent throughout this that she's basically a flat character in that she doesn't change throughout her experiences. It's very weird to me.
Yeah, actually, I'd made a note about that later on. It wasn't until way later, it was maybe like the last couple chapters where I was like, oh, you seem now like a different character. But I agree that the changes were so subtle that it was like, oh, I've been inconvenienced for today.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a paradigm shift or like a grand
thing.
Yeah.
And this should have been that event, right? It should have been the event in which she sees everything and things are different. And it says that they see it on her face, but
yeah, the riding the bucket of water up the thing.
Yes.
Okay, I thought that was genius of her to think for herself and come up with a way to get her ass back upstairs to the Grand Steward. And it was to get into this water wheel. What are they called?
Yeah, water wheel.
Yeah, so she's trying to get out of the dredges and back to the kind of like the places that she knows, and she's stuck. So she goes out and finds this big water wheel that's basically just taking the water from the dredges, because there's no water anywhere else. They're in a bunch of caves. It's only in specific places, and pushes it up to the higher levels of society.
So she rides one of those buckets up, and that's how she escapes everyone that's the watch and everybody that's looking for her down in the drudgery. And I was like, okay, this girl, she's starting to think for herself and not needing to rely on others to get her out of the situation.
Yeah. So being inventive is not a weak suit for her. So yeah, that's good. So she gets back to the Grand Steward. Her face has changed. He's like, get rid of her and like make it fixed, because he doesn't want to see how he doesn't want to see what she's seen. He just wants to live a happy-go-lucky life, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want her face tainting anything.
Yeah. She goes to Appeline to fix her face, and has a little snooze. She gets back to the Grand Steward. There's a tasting of jelly. The Grand Steward kills himself. Maxim kind of takes control of the situation and vies for taking over the world. So, any highlights from that? You know, those are not big events.
I think
a
we
few
could
big
just
events.
gloss right over that one.
Yeah.
So Neverfell is excited to see that his left eye is open. She's like, oh, he likes me. And so it lifts her spirits. But she is still disillusioned, and he comes to the conclusion that it's because she feels bad for the drudges. And so he says that these murders need to be investigated immediately, and she cheers up right away. And he has like kind of a change of heart. At first, he's like, he starts to ponder like the more nice things to do for the drudges, just so that she would look upon him again with the unfeigned admiration. So I do think she's starting to have more effect on the people around her, that they can't really like deal with, or that they don't see.
I think I disagree with that, because that's kind of ever since she unmasked herself everyone's kind of been reacting to her in some kind of variation of that, where it's like, I don't know what to do with this feeling of seeing someone excited or seeing someone afraid or anything like that. I think it's just another instance of somebody being really impressed with her faces.
And remember, the Grand Steward sees everything in black and white, like unless he sees it through her eyes. And now he's able to see kind of himself through her eyes.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's like, ooh, maybe I can milk this for some more like grandness. I can be more grand than the Grand Steward.
It was like completely selfish,
Sleazy.
like
Right. It was
philanthropy, where he's like, well, how can I consume more of this?
Yes, I need more of this good feeling.
Yeah. During this whole time, the internal monologue of the Grand Steward is making me feel paranoid. He is connecting strings to places that nothing is intertwined or connected, but he is making a story as he goes about this action may affect that action, and all of these plots, everything is a plot of someone trying to bring him down.
Yeah, and so like the Grand Steward killing himself was the culmination of all of that, right? And he goes completely wild, and he's like, oh, the birds sang to me kind of melancholily. That must mean they're poisoned, and he starts ordering everybody dead, which is great. I love it when everybody dies.
Well, it was kind of like how Juan was saying, how that part was just really well written, where most of the story has been told in this like very like fantasy kind of way, but this particular section was like told from Left Eye's point of view, and he's like, oh, something doesn't feel quite right. I think Right Eye is trying to get me. And Right Eye is part of the same person. They're just like basically two different personalities in the same human body.
They are roommates in the same skull. They're just...
and that's real unfortunate for them.
Yeah. He's working himself up, and he starts off like, this could be what's happening. Actually, no, this is really what's happening. And everybody's in on it but me. Oh, this cannot stand. And he just starts working himself up. As I was reading it, I was getting worked up too. I was like, I don't even know what we're mad about, but I'm here for it.
The Right Eye had earlier given something to wake himself up in case of an emergency, and it's used, and so they're both awake at the same time for the first time in like 100 years. And so they try to kill each other, and it's amazing. I just love the visual of you're battling with your own hand. It's like that it's like scenes from other movies where the hand is trying to get them, and they're like, oh my god, and they're like raking each other's.
All I can think of is Army of Darkness.
Yeah, where he like, has to cut off his own hand.
Yeah.
Farewell to arms. Yeah. That was
literally.
Once GS goes down, I love
Grand Steward.
Yes, Grand Steward.
I love the layers of paranoia that build up then, because not only do each side has their own squad that protects them, but each side also has their own set of doctors assigned to it. So there are doctors trying to revive each side of the Grand Steward, and there are this guy's basically the hired muscle pointing bow and arrows or crossbows at the other doctors, basically saying if they do anything, you kill them. And there may have been one more layer.
There's also the Inquiry, who was like, their whole goal is to protect the Grand Steward in general. Right. Not like one half of him or the other half of him. And they're like, this is weird. This is bad. And they basically told the guards, like, listen, we're going to let the physicians attend them because they are clearly one person that just tried to kill themselves. So,
I mean, the poor guy is just, he
nuts.
is wrecked.
Yeah, did you guys think that it was like foul play was afoot, or did you think that he was just to his breaking point, like he was just old and that was his time to go?
At that point in time, I thought it was just, he just lost it. He was just nuts.
Same. You.
I kind of honestly was thinking that the author just wanted to get rid of the character. It ended up being a lot more than that. This weird, like, psychological action came out of nowhere. That's not really how anything else was written in the book. So I kind of didn't really think it was either. I thought it was just the one.
You told me this while you were reading it, but, like, you put the book down and didn't have a lot of motivation to pick it back up after that.
I was a little annoyed by it. It came, like I said, it came out of nowhere. It was a little jarring. The writing style changed quite a bit, and it was just a little jarring in the way the storytelling switched really quickly to being like kind of this like jaunty story to being like, oh, now it's a political plot. And maybe it's just how I was reading it, but it got like suddenly action oriented out of nowhere, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm here for it. It ended up fixing itself later on, but at the time I was like, oh, well, let's push through this part. In hindsight, I liked it a lot, but once I understood the context, but in the moment I was like, y'all seem to like it a lot, so don't take.
Yeah,
I'm just one person.
I was like, yo, get him.
Literally getting himself, like stabbing himself in the eye. I was like,
just the paranoia and the descent into paranoid madness. I was like, there's no way that this doesn't end with him
walking out of there.
Yeah, he's obviously suspicious. The only person that could get to him would be the closest person to him, which is him. Just the other part of him.
And like Neverfell was fine. She ate the jelly just fine. So that it led me to believe, no foul play.
But that's why they immediately turned on Neverfell, and they were like, it was her.
Yep.
So everybody, like...
So she was arrested.
Well, because everybody was just sitting there in the court watching everybody eat some fancy jellies, and their beloved leader stabs himself to death. And it was like, in my mind at least, Neverfell was just standing there trying to revive him, and all eyes went like, whoosh, this girl. And then they start chasing her down.
Yeah. And they just arrest her.
Oh, I thought she ran.
No, they arrest her at that point, start in the interrogation, and they question her over and over and over again. And basically come to the conclusion that, she has not consumed anything. She's fine. She recounts her visit with the face smith. She recounts everything that she had to eat or drink. They conclude that she had not had any antidote. And so Maxim vies for control of the situation and says, hey, we should take over the world.
The man puts a speech together.
Yeah,
that was great. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was swayed.
Yeah. I was like, I don't trust you, but you got my vote.
He literally walked in the room like
Malfoy's dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kate flying behind him, like owning the establishment. And he's like, nope, she's fine. You're going to let her go. And also I'm in charge now. Bye.
Except Malfoy's dad was a creep. This guy was
a
like
suave mofo.
Yeah, this guy
He's
was
healthy.
like a regular Gomez. I just imagine him, his dark slick back hair just running right into place.
His fancy wine that can kill people and or do all the other magical things.
His wine can do anything he wants it to.
So after that whole kerfuffle, Neverfell, she gets back to like the Childersons. Basically, Maxim just basically grabs her and is like, "Yeah, you're coming with me." And Zul, my girl Z, she is for some reason upset and upset with Neverfell while she's back there. So Neverfell decides, I'm going to take a trip to Madame Appeline's house. There she is blackmailed by Borkus, who you might not remember, but Borkus was a person that was at the very beginning when Neverfell first escaped out of the little, she was chasing the rabbit out the hole. Borkus was one of those putty girls that was making an audition.
She's Zuzu's best friend.
Yeah. But she's really not referenced between then and now. So I had to go back into my notes and be like, who the hell's Borkus?
The girl
also,
with the
what
most
a name.
Unfortunate name, yeah.
So that makes so Borkus is trying to blackmail her because she found a thimble out of place, which makes Neverfell suspicious about the nap, and she starts thinking back on the nap and like, what's going on? And then she's back at Childerson's and she confronts Zuel and finds out that there was a plot to sneak her an antidote.
My favorite part of this whole thing is Neverfell gets blackmailed in exchange for almost nothing, it seems to me. So if Borkus follows through with the threat, she would most likely be executed. And the gain for her is very small, it seems like.
She gets some faces.
Yeah. I was like, man.
Wait, you're going to have to remind me what happened because I'm going to be honest. I don't remember this part at all.
Neverfell goes back to Madame Appeline's. And when she's there, Borkus comes down to talk to her, asks her if she wants some refreshments and some snacks. Of course, she does.
Of course. She's not crazy.
And as she comes back, and I don't remember exactly if there was like some small talk, but basically she has this thimble that is it's given to Neverfell from the Grand Steward's court
to keep her from biting her nails, because she's not allowed to bite her nails.
Yeah. And she found that in was it the gallery?
Upstairs, a secret room.
Yeah.
She wasn't supposed to go in.
It was a secret room because they're allowed to go in to sweep the floors.
Yeah, so she found it up there. And of course, Neverfell is like, oh, that's weird that somebody had dropped one of these. Borkus says, well, it is weird because we had somebody who had one of these here. And Neverfell doesn't make the connection. At first, she's like, oh, that's maybe somebody took it from me and dropped it up there. Or maybe this other thing. And she's like, no, you dropped it up there. And if you don't give me what I want, I will let them know that you were in there.
I'm going to turn you into the inquiry.
Yeah, again.
Which is like,
This girl's got a rap sheet.
Yeah, like these guys again.
She has to go to re-education camp.
She's going to have to put another teardrop next to her eye.
So that's when she starts going over it in her head.
Bodies are racking up.
Yeah. So that's when she starts going over it in her head again and again and again. And that's when she realizes that nap, when she went to go see Appeline to fix her face, that nap was, she had her shoes on when she dropped into the bed, and then when she woke up, she had to put her shoes on.
Which I thought was a party foul.
Yeah, never fall asleep with your shoes on.
Yeah.
All right, so she's suspicious about the nap, but she goes back to the Chillertons and she confronts Z-Girl and finds out while she's confronting her, like Maximum busts in and is like, she gets hidden, like Neverfell gets hidden away. So Maximum and Z-Girl like have this conversation about this plot, and there was something along the lines of, you know, murder's like love. Your first one's the one that's rough. It's like, oh, that's not great.
He does have a point. Yeah, that nonchalant revelation of, you know, sometimes you got to kill a guy, and you know you'll get over it though. He's just collateral damage.
Neverfell gets kind of swept away right in the nick of time because I'm sure Maxim did not want her to hear that whole like murder plot part. But like, scary, but it would be kind of fun to be in a situation where you had to hide and wait for somebody to finish their conversation before you could finish your conversation. That's like some spy shit.
Oh yeah.
I have a feeling that my mind would wander off in the middle of that.
Just forget where you were.
God damn it.
They're discussing how exactly they're going to just like string you up, and you're like,
yeah, I'd be hiding under the bed like, man, I wonder how many, what's a thread count on that? Oh, shit.
Oh,
right, there's a plot here.
I was supposed to be paying attention to something.
And I come right back when he's like, we'll talk more later. Door shuts.
And you're like, huh, well, that's not great.
Yeah.
But at least I'm surrounded by wine barrels.
Neverfell decides to escape, right? She's like, I gotta get out of here. And so they come up with this convoluted plot to like,
gotta skedaddle.
So they go, she's on her way to the palace to say goodbye to all of her tasting buddies, I guess is what they thought they were. And Maxim jumps in, and then there's a cave-in, and she runs into the cave-in, which therefore she escapes. She goes back to the drudgery, works as a nurse for a little bit because they have to wear masks. She gets information on a secret excavation some 7 years ago, and finds out Appeline was illegally digging, and Neverfell talks to a cartographer for a very long period of time. So that's a bunch of stuff that happens.
Yeah, she should have called 811 before digging.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes.
That's how you hit a gas line.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty smart of her to get disguised as a cartographer, because people are constantly avoiding them. And I think this was one of the points where I realized that everything that happens in this book happens for a reason. And I was actually really excited about that. Because another thing that had happened around that time was the servant who was working in the court during the banquet, who she's saved the servant's life by spilling the wine because she saw that he had spilt a drop of it and they would have executed him if they saw. He was actually the one who got her out of that area. He like helped her escape. And I really liked that. Like, because already this is a 12-year-old and I don't really identify a lot with her, but I did appreciate that it took all of her actions and they were valid and they actually made a change in the world.
It wasn't just that he helped her. They swayed the entire...
All the servants.
Yeah. to onto her side, because they said something along the lines of, do you know how many people in court have risked their lives for one of our lives? 1 in 500 years.
The whole plot of people avoiding cartographers because they're crazy and they don't want to turn crazy, I just thought that was really cool. She was like, well, I'm going to be disguised as one. It's like, way to use that to your advantage.
Yeah, so much so that she was impressed by the fact that even though her disguise wasn't that great, at least in her eyes, people were like, nah, I'm good. I don't even want to risk trying to stop this loon and having a conversation with him.
Yeah, no one will stop to question a cartographer when if you talk to them for more than 5 minutes, you go insane.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the secret excavation was. I kind of felt that it had something to do with the way that Neverfell appeared underground, but I didn't realize, I don't know, I just didn't put 2 and 2 together what it really was.
The secret excavation being when Lady Appeline ordered... It's kind of hard to explain what happened with this excavation. It was like they were excavating from 2 sides towards each other, right?
So
and
the world works wiggly in this area, right? There's the tornado or whatever they call it, the twister. And basically from one estate you can drill and it goes in a sideways manner to a different area. And so they were trying to drill to the outside. They were trying to make an exit to the outside that is not monitored. And
so Lady
they got themselves
Appeline
a little love tunnel.
And Maxim Childerson were both trying to get to the outside, kind of for the same reason. And they ended up accidentally connecting their own tunnels to each other.
Oh, they connected
their tunnels in more than one way.
That was not an accident. They planned that so that they would have like a secret, like sneaky way to get to each other. But the main tunnel, the main excavation one that was like they couldn't find again was the daylight coming through the dining area in Maxim's breakfast hall.
So,
those are different tunnels? I thought that
they're the same.
I thought that the light tunnels
the
were
first one that goes directly up and out is on top of his dining table, and then there's also a tunnel that connects their 2 abodes.
Oh, they're different.
Yeah, that's how they got that vitamin D.
Yeah, the big D. So
the big D.
Yeah, the sun.
D3.
Yeah, the sun. That's the biggest D there is. That is the tunnel that the cartographers have been looking for this whole time. And that's why they're so crazy, is because it's the unseen tunnel. It's the place where it goes out.
He blocked the hole with like a giant lens, and then the sides of the cave with like, I can't remember what it was, but basically it threw them off where they're like, oh, that's not a tunnel anymore.
Just put some leaves and a couple twigs. It's like, there.
Well, from what I read, it was that the cartographers can see pretty much how Caverna is, right? But this tunnel, like they can see where all the tunnels enter and exit in Caverna. But this tunnel doesn't exit in Caverna. It exits outside of Caverna. So it's the tunnel that only has one opening.
Oh, throws off.
Yeah.
And so that makes them go
outside of it.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, I just imagine the Rainbow Road the whole time. Like when there was some passage in there where it was like basically referring to how they weren't even able to comprehend that something, something could exist outside of that.
There's nothing outside of Caverna.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, if you only go a little bit squiggly on the right-hand side of the left turn of green, then you'll get, and that's how they talk.
And I especially liked when she met the cartographer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So that was one of my favorite books or parts.
So she goes and talks to this cartographer, and it's almost weird how calm he is. And he's like, "Oh, I know you're not actually a cartographer, but help me out with this." And he's kind of giving her instructions, and he knows why she's there, what she's up to, and he has to go and speak to a level 2 cartographer who is even crazier.
Yeah, he starts another timer.
Yeah,
It's great.
He's like, I can't get to that guy's level just yet.
Neverfell is listening at the door, and the guy inside there opens another door, and the guy behind that is mainly making squeak and bat sounds. So it's like there's multi-levels of cartographer. You can just level up as a cartographer by going more and more insane.
Yeah, I was like, is this a thing that happens to you over time, or is this somebody that just wasn't careful? And
I think
you get promoted and you just automatically just get a little crazier.
She meets with the cartographers, and then she starts to piece together what she feels like is really going on. And then she's like, I can't think straight because I need to talk to somebody who doesn't think straight. So then she goes and tries to find the kleptomancer. And I love this part. I thought it was genius.
Where up meets down?
Yeah. So where she basically used his plan and pre-planned what she was going to do, and then took wine to make herself forget so that she couldn't portray any of that on her face and facial expressions, and she could speak the truth that she had no idea what was going on, but she had already pre-planned all this rebellion and like the end of the, I don't know.
Oh yeah, so that's like the last half of the book. So
yeah, the whole last half of the book. But I just thought that was cool that she was like, I'm going to copy the kleptomancer because he doesn't think straight like everybody else, and you need somebody who is a little crazy to figure this out because you're changing everything.
Yeah, she not only needs to think like him, she goes and finds him, right? So he's in on the whole plot. And she wakes up after, like, she talks to the kleptomancer. He's like, remember right now. Like, I need you to remember exactly this time because I'm going to have some very specific questions for you. And that's the last thing she remembers, and she wakes up 2 months later.
Yeah. Kelly, what did you think about the kleptomancer getting involved?
What we're talking about is that Neverfell is kind of trying to put the wheels in motion to overthrow Childerson because she has pretty much decided that he's a bad guy. But he's also very smart, and so she needs to find a plot that is also smart. So that's why we're talking about how it can't be a linear plot that's very easy to predict. So she needs a plot that's unpredictable. The factions that we know are unpredictable in this book are the cartographers who are spending so much time looking at tunnels that they don't think straight anymore, and they are literally going insane. And if you're near them for too long, you'll go insane too. And the kleptomancer, who we already know has been basically just drugging himself with a fancy wine to make himself forget things, and then bringing himself back to remembering those things when it's more convenient to remember them, so that if he's ever questioned by stuff, he literally couldn't tell you. So by combining the intelligence of these two forces, she's able to come up with a plot. I really like that she went to the kleptomancer. They came up with a plan together, and in the book, he's like, okay, you're going to have to drink this. Just trust me on this. And in the book, there's a whole page that's like, and these pages got ripped out. You don't know what happened. Neverfell doesn't know what happened. And I thought that was great.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
They just like fast traveled to 2 months later, and they're like, well, Neverfell, where are you now? And turns out she's like standing in front of the court, like, well, here I am, about to speak my truth. I don't know what that is yet, but hopefully it comes back to me.
Like she finds a note in her hair that's written in her own handwriting that says, don't worry, or something like that. And I think that's great. It's like, write yourself little notes. It reminded me of
Memento.
Memento's the one where he's like tattoos himself and leaves himself Post-its and
kind
of leaves himself a paper trail to get back to what am I even doing here?
Right. And so that's kind of what it reminded me of, like her leaving herself stuff in her own handwriting. That was pretty cool.
So that also was the point, the like tipping point where Zoelle was gonna have to either pledge her allegiance to Neverfell, or to her uncle. And Neverfell trusted her as her friend, and she ended up coming through for a homegirl and gave her not the right wine that her uncle told her to give her that she was supposed to take before she went to the court, it was the one that actually made her remember even more than she had in the past.
Yeah,
so
woke
she
her
was
up.
able, like woke her up.
Wake me up inside.
Yeah, because Maxim knew that she had overheard a lot and she knew a lot. And so his plan was to give her some wine to make her forget everything that she already knew, because she knew all of his plots. And he was like, it's fine. I have just the right wine for that. And so he tasked Zoelle with giving Neverfell that wine. And instead, she gave her one that expanded the memories even more.
She came through for Neverfell, and so she's actually her true friend. And so she decided to be there for her and help her with this rebellion that happened.
One thing I found interesting on the topic of the wines was they would get further along in the plan, and Neverfell would have this lapse of memory or something, and somebody was like, "You just have another swig of wine."
Yeah.
Takes a little swig. She's like, "Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah. She's like, ooh, that
Yeah.
rebellion.
damn,
What
I'm in."
rebellion? Drink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that rebellion. And then all of a sudden
Charge!
the drudge uprising.
That was
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
right when she's like, oh yeah, that rebellion, all the drudges that she's been kind of like working them up.
Rallying.
Yeah. Just burst through the walls and attack all of the upper society people. It was majestic. I feel like I want to watch that scene of whatever show is made out of this specifically.
So Neverfell makes her way to Madame Appeline's house after this, when there's all chaos breaks loose. It's kind of like a face-off. And this is where everybody learns the true identity of Madame Appeline, where all of us had all of our hopes and dreams crushed.
Except me.
Except you.
She was evil.
She was freaking evil. Like, I was not prepared for how evil she was.
This person who is horrible. I saw it coming and I still hated her.
Chris, she's an evil bitch.
Oh, there we go.
But I love the way she died. I was like, yes, justice is served.
Why we're so upset about Appeline is that when the tunnel was completed and now they have a way outside, she specifically wanted someone captured from the upside so that way she could study their faces.
Yeah, you can't have just a willing participant.
No. So they captured someone and brought him in, but the person had a child and she was pissed. And so she specifically brought the child in to be with the mother for 30 minutes a day and then tore the baby away from the mother just to sketch the faces.
She says, ebbing away before my sketchbook was the most useful thing she ever did. Before my tragedy range, faces were varnish. I made them come into true art.
Yeah,
Ugh,
so
yikes.
she was a bad person. And then during this whole battle as in like they started actually swinging at each other, she steps backward and gets eaten by a plant.
Feed me, Seymour.
She's like, you are not my mother. Take off her face.
I
And-
laughed so hard when she fell into the plant and the plant just chomps on her.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
yes.
The plant's probably like, a good meal. So the plants look like what?
A Venus flytrap, basically. It was like a pitcher plant
Pitcher
slash
plant.
Venus flytrap.
Yeah, it was a combination of
yeah.
those two because it talks about their teeth and stuff like that. And there was one that was 9 feet wide. And these are the things that provide air.
Right.
So
And
light.
light.
And light.
Air and light. Yeah, as they breathe in, humans
Carbon
exhalation,
dioxide.
they'll glow, and then they'll attract things, and then the things will get eaten and stuff like that. And in this case, the thing that got eaten was a really bad person.
I like the fact that the last thing that she inspired was a smile wider than anyone had ever designed from the plant enjoying its final meal. That was like, yeah, there you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
a
That-
9 foot long smile. Of
yeah,
like,
never felt trying to get her out of there, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, so that was interesting too. Like even though the person fell, or even though Madame Appeline fell backwards into this like death plant, Neverfell still tried to rescue her.
Sounds familiar, like our last book.
Yeah, ignorance. Okay, so drudges are uprising, and everyone is going through Madame Appeline's tunnel to Maxim's tunnel.
So Zoelle, Neverfell, Grandable, Erstwhile, and the drudges all escape out the tower, up the tunnel that leads out of Maxim's dining area where he was harboring daylight so that his family could be stronger and healthier than everybody else in Caverna.
I thought that was brilliant. Like, if you know that sunlight does that to people, like, yeah, do whatever you can to get sunlight in here. And that's why he kept them on the same schedule and like wanted to make sure that they always came in at the exact same time of the day. So that way it's always light in there no matter what. And they never figured out it's darkness. So that was pretty great. And so they start escaping one at a time. And then Maxim shows up.
And tries to pull them down, but they are climbing up a ladder into the daylight.
Yeah.
And they all escape.
Yeah, the cartographers swarm Maxim, and he can't escape. And they all leave, and the humans are like, "What the fuck is going on? All these little fairies are running around, and they brought their magical crafts, and Zuel and Granival were the first craftsmen to leave their underground and teach the humans their ways." And I thought it was really funny that they thought of them as fairies, but that actually makes a lot of sense because the stuff that they can create is magical.
Yeah, the humans who saw the all of these ground people come out of the ground were like, "Oh, look, the fairies have come."
Yeah.
Referring to all these little mole people.
And they also thought that Neverfell was snatched by a fairy because she couldn't speak human language, and she was the only human among them. So they're like, that kind of was like, oh, that's kind of a common plot in fairy stories where they, take
the little changelings.
Yeah, the changelings.
I just try to imagine these dredges out in the real world with their like one or two faces they have, and just having zero reaction to anything that happened.
Comes from. So what are you guys' thoughts on the last part of the book?
I definitely enjoyed the second half more. First half, I was like Kelly, about ready to throw the book, but
He did not enjoy the first half of the book.
I was like,
And maybe a
this
little
kid.
bit more. But I think it's because the main character is a 12-year-old girl.
I think it was, the 12-year-old, like, rambunctious kid asking so many questions, and I'm like, and you people are entertaining this? And then towards the second half, it's, she starts to kind of wisen up a little bit. And
Character development.
yeah. And the plot has to move forward, so yeah, it was good.
I like the second half a lot more than the first half as well. It definitely had a turning point where the writing style, I felt like, changed quite a bit, but that wasn't a bad thing all in all, because it ended up getting a lot more exciting versus just like spending quite a few chapters of like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years. I wonder what's the connection, was basically the whole first half of the book. And then the second half was like, oh, wait, actually, all of these characters have personalities and motivations. And like, that's where you really got a sense of the characters, I felt like, in the second half. So it was worth getting through the first half, which was still good, just not quite as action-oriented or character development-oriented, I felt, to get to the second half where it really picks up and you really start to get a sense of the different characters, their motivations, the socio-political climate, just everything kind of gets dumped on you on the second half in a really good way. My opinions on a lot of the characters changed throughout. I really felt like Zuel's story, to me, mirrored Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones, where I started off really not liking her because she was a little too conniving. She plays the game just a little too well, and then she redeems herself by the end by kind of being pretty chill. In a lot of the same ways as Sansa does, where she is still playing the game, but it's leaning more towards the quote-unquote right side, aka the side that I'm on. I changed my opinion on Erstwhile a little bit. I will say that. I will say that your guys' explanation of what might be going on did change my perception a little bit when we were talking about it last episode, where yeah, he's a kid and this is how guys talk sometimes, and like, fine. But I felt like he redeems himself by like actually pulling through for her in a time that was really detrimental to her. And also he was putting himself at risk by helping her out. It wasn't just selfish like he has been before. It was like, no, he could actually be extracted from this society and he chose to help her anyways. So that was okay. All right. I kind of want to dive more into him a little bit. We don't really have time to do that. But if you want to talk to me about it on Instagram or Twitter, we can have a conversation. But that's how I feel about Erstwhile now.
My opinion of him went like rock bottom during this. I didn't like him, but I didn't think he was that bad of a guy. And then by the end of it, I'm like, you're just like all the others. I really didn't like him. He was a drudge, but he was still trying to play the game. And he was just, I don't know. Yeah, he was taking some risks, but he was just a jerk about everything. I mean, he was just a dick. I didn't like him by the end of it. Maybe I was just in the wrong headspace when I read that part of it. But what other character impressions changed for you, if there were any?
Well, I had originally thought that Madame Appeline was a friend. Not the mom, but a friend. Very wrong on that one, as we now know. She was literally the opposite of a friend. She hates Neverfell and was doing everything in her power to murder. So, not very cool.
My opinions on the last half of the book were, it was action-oriented. Everything wrapped up tightly and neatly, and every single thing it was like they took Chekhov's gun to the next level and made Chekhov's arsenal. Everything that was mentioned was neatly tied up, and I hated that.
Oh.
By the end of it, it's the exact opposite of you, Danny.
Yeah.
By the end of it, I was like, okay, well, now they're going to talk about something else that happened previously on, and I can't stand that. There was no chaos in the world. There was no random events that just came out of the blue. And I think that needs to happen in a world. Like, there needs to be something that isn't absolutely planned out and that you find out about. There just needs to be something that's like, no one saw that coming because it was just a roll of the dice and a storm picked up or something. Like, there needs to be some random element. I felt like this was too much of a play. And it was fun to read, but it wrapped up too tightly.
To that point, I was expecting at some point in all their, the development of this plan, that she would be given like the wrong wine to drink or something, that, she accidentally skipped a step and now they have to kind of react or take off from there or figure out how to get to that point, but she doesn't have the memories or whatever it is that she needs to get there.
Yeah, everything just, I don't know. For me, everything went to plan, and it went too much to everybody's plans. Like, somebody had a plan that was making this happen. There wasn't any like, well, that person, like a rock fell on that person and now we can't use him anymore.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It just, I feel like that kind of random element that the world is not just everything that's happening in this book needs to be there.
So that's something that you could recommend to authors is please include something.
Yeah, spontaneous human combustion. Something.
It's just one of those things where, like, there just needs to be a little bit sprinkled in somewhere where things didn't work out, or you were trying to do something and you might have failed, but it might not have been because someone else planned for you to fail.
Right. Or succeeded in a way that you didn't foresee.
Right.
Yeah.
Succeeding in a way you didn't foresee is another great example of something that can happen where, it worked, but it threw everything off.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the only complaint I have about the last half of the book, is just everything tied too neatly into a little bow and then happily ever after. And I'm like,
well, I wonder if it was because she knew that she didn't want to write a sequel. And if you leave too many loose ends, it kind of implies that there's going to be a sequel.
well,
So maybe she was just trying to like make sure you knew, like, no, this is it.
that could be, but you don't have to make loose ends just to make random happenstance. Like for instance, if Neverfell failed at something, it was because someone else was trying to make her fail. It was never she just didn't succeed at it. And it never
Should've
felt
called
like
her
that.
Never failed.
Never failed. Everybody's plans were a success unless somebody had planned for them to fail. And that was a little bit off for me.
Well, nobody could have foreseen her chasing a rabbit through a random hole.
It's true.
That's true.
That rabbit.
So
That was
basically,
the random thing.
this whole story is because of a random thing.
That's the only thing that was random about this whole book was her like getting out into the world.
Trying to milk a rabbit, which none of us have ever figured out how after this book. You do not learn how in this book, just FYI.
Yeah, it never teaches you. It's just something that I'm still yearning to learn.
That knowledge is too dangerous.
Once you learn how to milk a rabbit, what's next? You're going to hunt down a jackalope?
So originally, when we first introduced that we were reading this after Piranesi, I had the gut feeling that it was going to be similar to the Neil Gaiman's movie Mirror Mask, and I was kind of right on that. It wasn't quite as bizarre and surreal, but I think that's one of the reasons why I liked how everything was like neatly tied together, because it made it surreal in my head, like a surreal story that's like a fairy tale, a fantasy, and I love that. I actually just avoid anything that has anything to do with real life. So I think the more storytale-esque that a movie or a book is, I'm going to be more drawn to it because it's going to be, I don't know, more entertaining for me. I liked this book a lot, but because it was in that same vein, like very like almost surreal, very fantasy, very fairy tale-esque. Yeah, I think I kind of liked the elements of the story, like that they were in a cavern, that there was just these crazy people, a very high plot society, and that there was like the magical element of the cheeses and the wines and the jellies, and that stood out to me more, and I liked those elements more than the actual plot. That's just kind of how I am as a person. Like, I don't really like movies that have a lot of dialogue. I like it to be very visual. So I felt like this story, to me, while I was reading it, was just like a very, very visual in my head anyways. So I kind of rolled my eyes at the very last part when Neverfell just happened to rig something up that would save everybody and instantly transport them into the tunnel, like a giant rope ladder that they could all climb out of. Like, I was like, that's a little convenient. And another thing that I kind of disliked was I couldn't ever really believe that she was 12. In some instances, I was like, only a 12-year-old would be this naive, but then again, it was like, no, she has to be like 15 or 16 to have this sense of leadership. And I just kept waffling from, like, is she 12, or should the author have made her a little bit older to handle this? But then that innocence also, I don't know, that kind of was an internal struggle for me when I was reading the book. But besides those two things with the main character, I really like this story. And I'm so glad that I just randomly found it online and added it to our list.
That's funny that you mentioned all of the kind of more cinematic parts of it, because as I was reading this, I kind of thought that it would make a really good movie. I don't think that there's quite enough substance to it to be a show.
No.
But I think it would be a pretty fun, like, kid-oriented action movie.
It could be one of those, like, BBC shows where they do, like, 4 episodes or something like
Yeah,
that.
like
And
a
they're each an hour
limited
and a
series.
half.
Or like a Spy Kids type movie. Have you guys seen those? They're kind of weird.
Have I seen Spy Kids? Of course I've seen Spy Kids.
I have not seen Spy Kids.
Have you seen Spy Kids?
It was
Yes,
exactly
I
my
have.
demographic when it came out.
Ah,
Holy shiitake mushrooms. It had kid swears in it.
you had kids. Okay.
That's funny. Oh, that's a new term. So I have a question for Kelly and Chris, and that is, have you guys ever done a cavern tour before?
We did our honeymoon in Ireland, and they have a cavern there. It has the home of the oldest bears ever found.
What?
They're like, what is it, like 3,000-year-old bear skeletons?
I was more fascinated by the cave itself. I didn't pay attention to all of the details on the years,
I was looking at
but
the skeletons.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they had a point at which they turned off all the lights. You're like standing in the center of the cave, and they're like, and now everybody hold on to the railing because we're going to turn off all the lights. And they turned off all the lights, and it was so dark.
Yeah.
It was pitch black.
Wow, that's so cool.
They were saying if you spend like 3 days in the pitch black, you start to lose your eyesight. And if you spend like 2 weeks in the cave, you can lose your eyesight permanently.
Yeah. Pitch black is not good for
It's
people.
really bad for you. So that the people in this book were really lucky that they had all of those glow things
Glowworms.
because they could have been forever mole people.
But
Wow.
that's not the only cave we went to, because we've been over to Eastern Washington. There's a winery called Cave B, and they have a little kind of bed and breakfast hotel type thing where you can stay, and part of the hotel is in a cave.
Yeah, it's built into the side of a cliff face. And so you stay inside the rocks, and like the wall is just one big piece of glass, and you can overlook the valley.
Yep. Yeah, it was great. And they have a
Wow.
great chef there that makes this nice, like, 5-course meal. And the wine's pretty good, too.
Oh, and we did the cave exploration with the torches.
Right. So one of the things on our bucket list was to explore a cave.
Have we been to caves?
Have we been to caves? So
We're
yeah,
basically cave people.
so one of the things that spawned, we have a bucket list of random stuff that we wanted to explore caves like Indiana Jones with real torches. Now, mind you, we don't have torches, and we had to look up how to make torches.
We're
so
city folk.
we made some torches and went to these caves we found, and we're like wandering around with these torches that lasted all of like 3 or 4 minutes. But it was pretty cool because they were like very glowy, and it was really fun.
That's amazing. Do you guys have any pictures we can share to our social media of these
We actually
journeys?
do. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll have to do that. So yeah, Juan and I have I've only been on one once, and that was with you.
Yep.
So.
I think that's my only experience also. Ours was down in Texas.
So for my 30th birthday, I wanted to go to Texas for the first time. I've never been there. And we planned it jam-packed with different places that we were going. We were going to Austin, San Antonio. We went to my first time going to a PAX gaming convention, and Kelly flew down, actually. And
Yeah,
went
I
with
was
us.
there. It was really fun.
It was super fun. And one of the things that we had done on our super busy trip down there was go to the Natural Bridge Caverns in San Antonio. And it was really amazing. You guys should look on their social medias, like look up pictures, look up videos, like, because it is so cool. Like, I don't even know you should try to explain it.
Basically, you find out that Texas is hollow. And there are
What?
so many caverns and caves. Yeah, you just go under. I mean, it goes forever. They're still like exploring, and you can go on this separate tour where you basically put on some knee pads and elbow pads, and you go through the tiniest little
Absolutely
cracks.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where
You
the mole
can-
people live.
yeah, exactly.
That's how people get stuck. I actually have a relative who went down to Mexico and did some cave exploration and didn't come out. And so they had to send a whole rescue party in after him.
Did he come out after that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he made it. He survived, but
Did he get stuck? Is that what happened? Mm-hmm. Oh, God, that's terrifying.
I don't.
it's too easy to get stuck in caves because, like, you go in one way and you can't back out. They're too...
It's like trying to get into certain dresses. A lot of clothing and women's clothing is like that.
Underneath this, it's just 15 dresses that I could never pull back off.
Okay, so what was everyone's rating of the book overall? We're going to go around the table starting with 1.
Out of
10.
5.
5.
5. Oh,
Ooh.
I would go. Let's give it a solid 3.
3 out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't my favorite book, but it was entertaining to read.
Okay. Danny.
I'd probably give it a 4.5, maybe 5, because I typically preserve the 5-star shelf for ones I'm going to keep and read again. And I do not want to get rid of this book, but I just don't really see myself reading it again anytime soon. But I definitely will. I'm like attached to it. Like, I will not get rid of it.
Okay. Kelly.
I'm going to give it a 3. I think I just might not be its target audience right now. And it was really well written for what it is. But but a little too simple for what I usually like to read.
I will give it a 3.5 since we're going on to the 0.5 scales. Juan's just over there shaking his head like,
I could have used that 0.5.
But I'll give it a 3.5. I liked the world building. I liked the premise of what was around in Caverna. I didn't find that there was a lot of character growth, and I do like that in books. And I think that I'm a little old for this style of book. I've read a couple of really good things, and that's tainted my view. This would be a good way to break into fantasy without tropes.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
There's not a lot of big tropes in here, but it does introduce a lot of fantasy elements.
Okay, so we're going to be putting A Face Like Glass back on our shelf. The next book that we're going to be taking a look at is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. We're going to be reading up to chapter 17, which is page 227, which is stop after chapter 16. Uprooted is a more magic-based book based off of Polish fairy tales and dragons, and we're going to be jumping a lot more into a more magical realm with this one. We're all pretty excited about it. I'm excited about the Polish fairy tale part of it because I don't know very many Polish fairy tales.
Witcher.
But I do like Witcher.
I'm really excited about this one because I have read Spinning Silver by this author, and I really liked it. Just let you guys know that this is, even though it is in the adult section of fantasy, I would consider it more young adult.
Well, you had like a whole spectrum of adult genres. You're like young adult, middle adult.
I feel like the new adult genre is the one that we were talking about that sounds really weird. Mm-hmm. That's the one that books that are in the young adult genre that have high sexual content gets put into, because it's not necessarily something you want your 13-year-old daughter to read, but maybe your 16-year-old daughter to read might be okay. So that's why they kind of, obviously it's up to parental discretion is advised, but they're, like a 12-year-old is much different than a 17-year-old. But even though they all are 13 to 17 is all teenagers. So young adult is aimed at teenagers, but there's a range. There's a range of the type of teenager and what they're, what they understand and what they're interested in. So they started this new adult, which is older teenagers, like once you start going into relationships and that sort of thing. And it kind of prepares you for the adult relationships where there's like the relationships and then the tragedies and like the very in-depth things that might happen between adults in some books. So I do like that there's a new adult range. I think this one's probably just hitting it. Spinning Silver, there was some like spicy stuff going on in that book, so there might be in this one. I'm not really sure. So I would probably put this in like the new adult, but maybe young adult. So, but yeah, like I love the writing style. It's very almost a little bit flowery, and the main female characters are very strong, but not in an annoying way to me, and that's like one of my biggest pet peeves. So I really like Spinning Silver, and I'm guessing that I'm gonna really like this one too.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so audience, please, we would like some ideas for our double date nights. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and so please let us know what your ideas for some double dates are.
We'll do them.
We'll try.
And we'll let you know if we picked your idea. We're going to pick them at random, too. So it's not like we're going to be going through and, like, judging. We're just going to grab one and go.
So give us your date night ideas on our Instagram or our Facebook at Dog Ear Discourse. We also have a Twitter, and that is DE Discourse. We have a website if you want all the access to all of our episodes, and our email if you want to contact us, and that's at dogeardiscourse.com. And thanks for joining us today.